So today's lecture is teaching writing. Everybody knows that writing is the most difficult skill, I would say, in any language. And therefore today we are going to speak about how to teach skills in writing. So writing consists of writing process and the writing content and the medium itself. So what are writing skills? Writing skills are the ability to convey information or details in print using proper grammar, sentence construction, and other elements. Also, the ability to communicate ideas through writing is in high demand in many industries, such as travel, IT, sports or gaming, health and the general business, and also, of course, in education. So writing skills allow people to express valuable ideas, thoughts and opinions, and some other information. So it also involves processes like generating and organizing ideas, revising or proofreading written work, and editing. So why is it important to teach writing skills? So writing skills allow students to share important messages through words. When engaging in different forms of writing, students learn how to express themselves and develop creative skills. Students can display these skills on resumes, for example, in cover letters and in email communication. Here are a few, other reasons to teach writing skills in a classroom. So first of all is it enhances reading and writing capabilities. Writing helps students learn how to language works, particularly, sentence structures. And through the help of reading materials available, they can learn how to create sentence and punctuate their work properly. The next one, it allows students to develop creative and critical thinking skills. So students learn to use their imagination to develop a perspective on a specific message and its reaction to the outside environment. And also students can express, their emotions, ideas, feelings, and thoughts through writing. The next one is improves language development. So writing improves. So basic writing skills help students learn how to speak eloquently, but developing their vocabulary and improving their sentence construction. So students learn to spell words correctly and connect these words to form sentences and eventually build a group of sentences to communicate and particular idea. So also writing skill, helps in vocabulary building. So as students learn different types of forms of writing, they learn new vocabularies and how to use them in different forms of writing. For instance, students might learn how to use common cooking vocabulary if they're writing, for example, recipes. Next part is grammar, punctuation, and the spelling skills. So correct grammar, spelling, and punctuation are key skills in written communication. So writers with great spelling, punctuation, sentence structure, and grammar skills can often write and communicate effectively, as reader can easily understand their writing. You can also help your students gain good grammar, punctuation, and spelling skills through reading other materials like, for example, articles and practicing it. Also, it develops communication skills. So writing is often collaborative, and so effective communication skills can be helpful for writers to have. So students can communicate with teachers and with other students, and in order to grow their communication and writing skills, they develop. They also, with practice, active listening, and the good communicative skills, writers can better, provide information through their writing. And therefore, you see that writing skills cover everything. So, types of writing skills. As you can see from this presentation, it includes editing and proofreading skills. So proofreading is the ability to read through a written piece, while editing means identifying errors and correcting them. So strong editing and proofreading skills means students can identify areas in their work that need correction, such as spelling and the punctuation. So they can also, spot and revise errors in their style, structure, and the planning. And therefore, please remember that when you teach writing, especially when you teach writing essays, for example, and some other, forms of like dictation and so on. So please teach your students to proofread and edit their writing, work. So the next skill is creative thinking skills. So creative thinking refers to the ability to identify a challenge and develop solutions to problems. So creative thinking skills help students review problems from different angles and develop a plan to solve the issue. So students can write unique stories, poems, and other forms of creative writing using creative writing skills. And therefore, you see, creative writing skills are really very important in the future. Maybe some of your students will be, for example, a writer in the future or blog writer, yes. So we will move on with reading skills. So reading is a cognitive process that involves looking at a series of reading symbols and understanding what they mean. So this process involves comprehension, fluency, and motivation. So writers who can read well can also write, proofread, and edit their writing. The next skill that should be developed and formed is research skills. So writers with good research skills can write about complex topics such as medical research, for example, or some other, dissertation, for example, or master degree program or doctoral program, different, papers, research papers. So to become better researchers, students can learn how to assimilate large amount of information, analyze, interpret, and report in the form of writing. So research skills also help improve communication and reading skills. So while you are teaching writing, you have to also keep in your mind the next following, information. First is familiarization. So learners are taught certain grammar and the vocabulary, usually through close reading of a text. The next one is you have to give them some controlled writing activities. Learners manipulate fixed patterns, often from substitution tables. The next one is guided writing. Learners imitate model texts. And of course, as a last stage in the production stage, you may give some free writing activities where learners use patterns that they have acquired to write, for example, an essay or covering letter or business letter or emails, for example. Here is given a substitution table. So a common application of this is the substitution table, which scaffolds writing by providing students with mix and match model sentence to practice risk-free writing. For example, sorry, I'm late because there were 8 giant slugs in my way. One example. The next one is, sorry, I'm late. There were some deadly badgers on the road. Or, sorry, I'm late because there were about 50 tiny ostrich in my cereal. So now we're focusing on the writing process, which includes planning, where you put the purpose, how well you influence by the language use and the information choice, The next one, you have to bear in mind the audience, who you are writing for, types of writing, formal or informal, and then content structure, how to sequence the facts, ideas, and arguments with wonderful discourse markers when you connect or using different cohesive and connectives. So writing process in general includes drafting, the first version of your writing, then editing, the reflecting and the revising, and the final version. So in this scheme, it will look like planning, drafting, editing, and the final version. Well, I'm sure that you highlight the most, important skills in writing, because you should help your learners to write effectively, including good grammar and vocabulary, because many students, many learners apply for taking IELTS test, for example, in the future, or maybe some of you will apply for studying abroad. In this case, writing is real crucial. Thank you for your attention.